Hey y'all, it's your girl, the OG Pretty Pink Pilot here, and welcome back to my channel. I'm glad y'all came to join me for the infamous private pilot check ride. The tea behind it all. I feel like when I was looking at videos for my private pilot check ride, I didn't really find many that kept it real, raw, and uncut. So I was like, I don't know how theirs is going like this and my training is going like this. So I came to give y'all one more perspective to add to your list, and I hope it helps. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get right into the video. So I started my training back in March of 2021, and I took my check ride September 6th, 2022. So it took me about a year and a half, and it wasn't ideal, and I'm at 105 hours, which is a lot. But, you know, I had to stop looking at my hours during my training and really focus on what I could control, which was, you know, prepping for my oral and making sure I was the best safe pilot I can be. So when I did make it to that check ride, it was a one and done, period. And that's what I did. I sold it at about 30 hours, which was not the plan, but, you know, everything happens in your own timing, and everybody's aviation journey is different. I also had to move flight schools. I was at this place called Advanced Aviation, and it just didn't go very well. I spent $4,000 for 10 flight hours, and that's when I knew I had messed up. So I had met my instructor, and he was like, come on over to the flight club. So I went over to the flight club, and it was actually a great experience. That's where I finished my training. Because even though I go to a college university, which is a 141 program, I had done my private pilot check ride 61. And just doing it 61, I realized that I personally like that curriculum style, because even though my instructor was very 141 in his teaching, not all 61 instructors are. So that's something to definitely keep in mind when you're figuring out where you want to do your training at, because for me, the 141 structure is just better. I had to reschedule my check ride about 4 times, 2 in like December, and then I had one for June 24th, and then I had got my check ride date for September 6th, which is when I got my license. So even though I had a bunch scheduled, I only went to one. So that was, I guess, the good part, that I didn't have to go to multiple. And I feel like definitely everything happens for a reason, because even though it took me a while, I feel like that was like my perfect timing. I feel like there's a reason why everything fell in place for that check ride. So I was just like, I'm not gonna question it, and I'm just keep pushing. I have flew with my instructor, like when I had first got back, 3 times a week. And it was a lot, but it was just the only way I was gonna get proficient, how fast that I wanted to get proficient. Like I wanted to be able to get my new solo endorsement for the new 90 days. Fast, so that I can go out and practice by myself, get comfortable in playing by myself, because my check ride was coming. You know, I was planning for that June 24th, so I needed to get everything in line so that it was gonna be great. My biggest key was this bad boy right here. This is the Hero 5 GoPro. It's not the best quality, but I used it so I could watch my flights back. It literally helped me so much, because I didn't have to be in the plane to still get the same information that I needed to get. So I would just watch my videos. I would chair fly. Chair flying is your best friend. It is your best friend. Like, it feels crazy, but it's practicing those procedures is literally the best. It'll save you so much money. It'll save you so much time. Like, just when you're sitting there at the red light, just go through your procedures for slow flights, steep turns, all of it, because it's literally going to save you. Like, the only reason why I was able to go 1 week before my check ride without flying was chair flying. So literally, it'll save you a lot of money. And then my check ride was from Elberton, Georgia, EBA, to A&D. It was really an error on his part because it was 25 nautical miles, which I was like, but I wasn't gonna make my life harder. So I just, did the check ride for my 25 nautical mile, and I went there, and he actually was like, it was an error, but I pulled up the email where he sent it to me. So we just went ahead with that flight plan, and I was so happy. And everything, there has to be something that goes not according to plan. So my IACRA had messed up. I had did it back in June, but it was 2 months, so it had expired. And my instructor, 3 weeks before my check ride, moved to Kansas. What are the odds, right? So that whole time I was flying by myself, and I flew with one other instructor just like for that mock check ride right before my check ride. And I think it was like probably a week and a half before. And I had to literally sit there in the office, call my instructor, and he was like literally about to go up on a flight. So I was like, can you please send this over? I need you to send over the IACRA. I need you to send over your signature. And everything fell into place, and we went ahead with the oral process. But literally, what a way to start off a check ride. And I flew to my check ride by myself. So I didn't have anybody there with me to write me off or like fix something. That's all I had. So I had to just go with what I had, and that's what I did. So even though it was a mistake, the cross country, everything seemed to be going okay. I had brought my work with me. When I had did my check ride, when I had did all my check ride stuff, I had wrote on my workout so that he could see it, so he knew I wasn't playing. Like, I just figured I just write it out, because when he does ask me to explain it, I need to reference something. I was really good in math, so that's why I feel like this part came easy to me. And I flew in a Cessna 172, so the charts are different from a Piper, but I think that it was pretty good. I made sure to fill out everything, all the parts, put the little information I needed. Pressure altitude was something hard, so I made sure to put the key or like the equation at the top. And then I had filled out the back part. I didn't fill out this part, but he didn't even look at the back page, but he didn't say anything about that. So yeah, I just went in, and he actually had me redo my weight and balance right in front of him. So I had to go through and add it, like if there was gonna be extra people. So I had went ahead and did that, and it was all pretty good though. He was pretty impressed. I had got 3 questions wrong. It was, how do you know the 80s are current for that day? And I really didn't know, I was like, I was just like, I put out the paperwork that was in the engine logs, and I was just like, right here. And he's like, no. So one of the biggest things is don't like try to pretend like you know, because they have been doing this forever. So if you don't know, just tell them, I don't know. And that's what I did. I told him I didn't know. And then E&G Airspace, I knew what I was talking about, but just in the wrong order, if that makes sense. So he let me skate past with that. And then the receiver only transmission on the VOR, I had got that one wrong, but he just said I had it flipped. So it wasn't too bad. I just feel like you have to just be confident in your answers. If you walk in with confidence, they're not going to really press you about it, because they're going to think like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. Oh, she's been studying. Oh, he's been studying. Like, that's what they're going to say. So then after that, the oral portion, like I said, it's like an hour and 45 minutes. And that was with a 95 on my written. So keep that in mind, because just because you got a high score does not mean you won't be in that oral for a minute, because I was in there for a minute. And then he hit me with the, you ready to go fly? And I'm like, I couldn't even believe it. Like, this moment, it was literally so surreal. So I had went outside, I had pre-flighted the plane and did everything I needed to do. And yeah, so now we're gonna move to the flight portion. The flight portion went smooth. Like, I was really surprised it went so like okay, like, one, I have the best diversion hack, y'all. Write this down. Literally write this down. If you got nothing else from this video, this part right here is what you need. Diversions. So when he tells you to turn in the direction of the airport, you'll turn there, you'll get a heading that you think it'll be on, and you're gonna measure it. My pinky was 15 nautical miles. So I would put my finger to see how long it's gonna be. And you really have plus or minus 5. So if you measured it and it was like 30, you're gonna divide that by 2 to get your time. So it'll take you about 15 minutes, boom. And then you know that a 0.1 on the tack is equal to 6 minutes. So just using that correlation of a 0.1 being 6 minutes, and you flew 15 minutes. So 6 times 2 is 12. So that's a 0.2.5. So using that method, it doesn't have to be exact. And you don't really want to have to be fumbling with your E6B, because it's like, it's not even like, the wheel is not that accurate. So I would say just literally use your finger and use that method of knowing the miles divided by 2 is your time. And then use your time reflected off of the tack, which is a 0.1 for every 6 minutes. And I promise you, he's not gonna question you. He's just gonna be like, all right, let's move on to the next part, which is exactly what he did for me. And I was literally so happy, because diversion was the only part I was really nervous about, but it wasn't even that hard. And one thing that you need to do is start your timer for your checkpoint on the roll, so that when you're already taking off, you already have the time for your climb already being taken into account, which I used during my check ride, which was really good. And I talked through the whole entire flight. I talked through it the whole entire time. There was never a moment where he had to think about what I was doing, because I was telling him what I was doing while I was doing it. And I feel like that's a really good thing, because it's a way to check yourself, to make sure you're on your heading, at your altitude, what are you climbing for, doing your radio calls. Everything is keeping you in check for what you need to do for your flight. So, yeah. Do all the briefings, your pre-flight briefing, telling them where the doors are, where the vents are, everything. Your takeoff briefing, you want to do your climb checklist, you want to do your cruise checklist, you want to do your pre-maneuver checklist, your pre-landing checklist, gumps, everything. Don't let there be one moment where you don't do a checklist, please. Like, you need to always have that checklist in your hand, so you're checking yourself, and that they know that you're being a safe pilot. Because that's what this flight is about. It's your first passenger, and you want to show your passenger that you are a safe pilot. And that is the goal. That's all they really want, is to make sure that you're being safe. Like, you don't have to be perfect, but be safe. Unusual attitude hack that I also have is, if they have you pitched down, always pull the power back and go back to the horizon. If you are pitched up, you're gonna go full power every time. Even if you're at a high airspeed, because you know your airspeed is gonna start to deplete because you're pitched up and the air can no longer flow over your wings. So if you're pitched up in unusual attitude, full power. If you're pitched down, you're gonna power back. Literally take that. Even show your instructor, they're gonna be like, ooh girl, ooh man, you got that? But no, for real, definitely. For me, I had no ground reference maneuvers. He just counted my traffic pattern as my ground reference maneuver, which is really what it is. I did all my radio calls because I was at a non-towered airport, and I was just lucky enough to have it where there wasn't a lot of traffic. So I was just able to do everything that I needed to do. He only gave me one bad feedback, which was when I did my emergency descent. Not my emergency descent, my engine out, pretty much. He just told me that I had an engine fire, which meant that I wouldn't be able to restart the engine, and that didn't click to me. So I'm trying to do my checklist and land. And when I went to the field, it was just like, I knew I would have made it by the skin of my teeth. And he asked me, do you think you're gonna make it? We're like 500 feet above the ground. I'm like, yes. And he's like, okay, go around. So I go full power and I go around. Even though I didn't know if I was gonna make it, don't snitch on yourself. Like, please don't snitch on yourself. Like, if they're not gonna ask questions, don't ask them questions. Like, just keep it simple, like concise. Be concise. That's all they're looking for. And yeah, so I just had the traffic pattern. For my landings, I had to do first a soft field, a short field. I did a forward slip to a go around, and then I did one last landing, and I came back in, and he told me I passed. And I was just like, yay, I was so excited. It was literally the best feeling in the world to be able to fly to my own check ride, get my license, be able to fly back as my first PIC time, and literally I didn't even have an instructor. Like, when I tell you all the odds were stacked against me and I still prevailed, and for that I have to say I was meant to have my pair of wings.